Tropical Storm Arthur has formed as this is set to impact tens of millions of people. What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. All right, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Tropical Storm Arthur, as of just recently at the time of recording this video, has formed. It is now our first named storm of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. Right now, hugging the coast of Texas, expected to make landfall later today near the Texas-Louisiana border. We have a lot of convection really firing off, especially to the southeast of the circulation right here. We have a lot to go over because today is going to be a very crazy weather day. You have Tropical Storm Arthur, and you have a severe weather outbreak for parts of the Midwest that is literally going to be happening on the same day as this system making landfall. So we're in for one of the craziest weather days you will ever see. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it. Starting off, we have Tropical Storm Arthur. It is official for you guys right here. We are definitely watching it. We are definitely paying attention to it. Here is our public advisory for you guys right here. The first one of Tropical Storm Arthur's career. Tropical Storm Arthur develops near the middle Texas coast. Life-threatening flooding expected across portions of the southeastern United States. Maximum sustained winds are at 40 miles per hour, moving at 9 miles per hour to the northeast, and its minimum central pressure is 1,001 millibars. This is a relatively broad system. That's why the pressure is so low. We have tropical storm warnings in effect, and they have been extended westward to High Island, Texas. So from High Island to Morgan City are tropical storm warnings. Tropical storm watches are in effect from Sargent to High Island as well. So that's what we're paying attention to right there, and we'll go ahead and show you the graphics right now. So here's what we got for you guys right here. This is the first time I'm sure you're going to be seeing this as well. Here is what we got for right here. This is the interactive cone. Here is the regular cone. We have tropical storm warnings right now in effect from pretty much the Beaumont area out of Texas all the way to Morgan City, Louisiana. Tropical storm watches are in effect. Those are probably going to get upgraded to warnings as the system starts to move further to the east and make landfall later today. So that's what we're paying attention to. Expected that this might be the peak intensity. If it stays over water for a few extra hours, it might intensify a little bit more. But regardless, it's our first named system, so we're going to want to watch out for it, especially for what's going to be coming in the coming days, because we have flooding. We also have storm surge that we need to talk to you guys about as well. And here is our peak surge forecast. From Matagorda Bay to the Galveston Bayou, we are looking at 1 to 3 feet. From Port Bolivar all the way to Morgan City, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge is expected. Now, 2 to 4 feet of surge may not seem like that much to a lot of you, but in this, especially in this area of the Gulf Coast right here, it is very flat, it is very low-lying, and there are some communities there that are definitely going to be impacted by this, especially if they are close to the coast. And even though further to the east, the good news over there is there is some more swamps that will absorb some of that storm surge, and there's not very many people. From areas like Beaumont and Lake Charles, and even areas in southwestern Louisiana, there are definitely those communities there that are definitely going to be impacts for you guys right there that we're going to want to pay attention to and going to want to take pretty seriously. So 2 to 4 feet of storm surge expected. From the mouth of the Mississippi to Morgan City is 1 to 3 once again. And those are more your swampy areas, although areas like Homa and a few areas in that region could definitely get some impacts from this. Here is our rainfall potential for you guys right here. Expected to be a very big flash flooding threat for you guys right here. Widespread, we're looking at 5 to 10 inches of rain across a lot of these areas. In areas like Atlanta, we're going down to about 2 to 4 inches of rain. Same with Augusta as well. You're still going to get impacted by it. Birmingham, 2 to 4. Montgomery, 4 to 6. Mobile, 6 to 8. So definitely a pretty big flooding threat that we're paying attention to. It once the system makes landfall and that convection moves on shore, you have a situation where across the deep south, not only are we seeing severe weather in parts of the Midwest, but for the deep south, some pretty significant flash flooding is going to be occurring as we're seeing this tropical storm make landfall, and then march across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. And that's not only to mention that once it moves off the Carolinas, this actually has a chance to reorganize and re-strengthen once again once it reaches the Gulf Stream. And that's another thing that we're going to want to watch out for. Taking a quick gander at our discussion for you guys right here, they found they found that based on the findings they had, the system was designated as Tropical Storm Arthur with 40-mile-per-hour winds. The key messages for you guys right here: potentially heavy flash flooding. Tropical storm force winds are expected along the upper Texas and Louisiana coasts. Minor to moderate coastal flooding is expected from portions of upper Texas and the Louisiana coastlines today, so definitely something we're going to want to pay attention to. But with that being said, going over all the graphics the NHC has for us right here, let's go ahead and take a quick gander at satellite imagery, and let's take a quick gander at what the models and the conditions are going to be like. Here's what we have for you guys right here. I'm sure some of you guys missed this. For those of you who have not tuned into the streams the last couple of nights, we have used Dapia quite a bit on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. It's a favorite topic, and it's a favorite tool of mine right here. But as you can see, we're taking a quick gander at this. The circulation is actually right about over here around Matagorda Bay, as a matter of fact. That's where the circulation currently is. It's hugging right off the Texas coast, and a lot of the convection over here is actually to its east, mainly due to wind shear impacting it. As it's starting to organize and consolidate a little bit more. So it may look on paper look pretty impressive right here, but the actual circulation is pretty exposed for right now, mainly due to the shear. It's just producing so much convection and taking advantage of the Gulf at the same time that it's actually warranted this tropical storm designation for you guys. But ultimately, we were watching this last night. We were taking a quick gander at seeing how this was developing. We were going, okay, I'm watching this convection right here. Things are really starting to ramp up. Things are starting to escalate a little bit more. You're going to want to watch the small areas of convection, because those small problems will eventually become big problems if that continues. And look where we are at right now. We are seeing this convection really starting to burst up and really flare up once again, and it's definitely something we're going to need to pay attention to, especially as it moves closer and closer to the coast, and especially as that brings heavy rainfall to areas like Beaumont, areas like Morgan City, areas like Lake Charles, and other areas in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama that we're going to want to pay attention to. So that's our satellite imagery. It's been a sheared storm regardless of what we've seen, but ultimately, well, it's been very heavy with the convection, except for a little bit later or a little bit earlier yesterday, before things started ramping up around 10 o'clock last night. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at models, and let's go ahead and see and time this out for you guys. So let's go ahead and start off right here. Let's go ahead and see what our hurricane runs are looking like. Let's see if they even actually can work with us right here. This is what we have for the HMON model. It's already emerged off the Texas coast. It is hugging the coast right now. It is expected to do that for the next several hours before making landfall actually around the Houston area, around Galveston later this afternoon, around 7 o'clock tonight, as the system is then expected to kind of move through parts of Louisiana, move through parts of Texas, as well, into going into Mississippi, potentially maintaining its organization and its intensity. I know we've been talking a little bit about brown ocean effect. In my opinion, I think it might be overdone just a little bit, mainly based on the fact that this is expected to be moving over land for the next few days, and it's definitely something that we're going to want to monitor, definitely something we're going to want to pay attention to. But regardless of this, it's still going to be a very significant flash flooding threat as it moves through Mississippi, Alabama, goes into Georgia and the Carolinas before it emerges off the Carolina coast in the next few days, and then potentially starts to reorganize and redevelop. We'll have to see how the shear kind of impacts it moving forward, but my goodness, the HMON is definitely showing the impact side of this right here. So that's what we're looking at for right now. Let's go ahead and take a quick gander at the Halves A run. Halves A is definitely a bit interesting as well. It's always on the aggressive side of things. The Halves A is continuing that aggressive trend. It's expected to make landfall around the Morgan City area, around Vermilion Bay, in parts of Louisiana before moving inland and reorganizing, redeveloping, and just causing a lot of flash flooding over parts of the deep south over here. The Halves A is just kind of a bit of a mess based on what I'm seeing with the model right here, but it is definitely good to kind of showcase some of this stuff right here. So let's go ahead and show the Halves B, see if that's any better. Not really. I would say it's still pretty disorganized from what I've seen, so we'll go ahead and skip that, and we'll go ahead and use the H-Wharf as well. And the H-Wharf is definitely, okay, a lot of these hurricane models are not particularly fantastic outside of the H-Mon, but the H-Wharf does show an interesting thing popping up once it moves through Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. It reemerges off the Carolina coast and potentially starts to reorganize and redevelop. The thing we'll have to watch out for, though, is the wind shear. Even though it is forecasting this to potentially strengthen to a tropical storm, it's going to be somewhat disorganized, and shear might be playing a big role in that. I'll go ahead and take a look at that next just to kind of see what's going to be happening in the long term. So with that being said, let's go ahead and shift over to that right now. We'll go ahead and move over to our to the European. We'll go ahead and shift over to the Western Atlantic, and we'll pull up our wind shear. And here is what we got for you guys right here. This is the European forecast. Shear is mainly going to be a problem, although at least according to what I've been seeing, the shear has definitely backed off a little bit, and it's moved in parts of central and eastern Texas over here. But as the system makes landfall, moves through Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, it's going to start encountering more shear. It's also going to be interacting with this trough that's going to be bringing a lot of severe weather to the Midwest today. For you guys as well. Moderate risk, once again, for all hazards as well. So definitely going to want to pay attention to that if you're tuning in from the Midwest. But you have the system moving through the deep south, re-emerging off the Carolina coast. You have wind shear and it battling to the northwest right over here. So that might definitely cause some problems as long as this shear stays close enough to the center. If it moves further away from the center, you could have a situation where the trough angle might act and allow for the system to consolidate. But for right now, the shear's hugging a little too close for this right here. Although, that being said, the European is forecasting this to be a mid-1990s millibar low pressure system. So that definitely could support some strong tropical storm strength right there. I'm not exactly 100% sure what the intensity on that might be. Let's go ahead and take a look at the organization on it. Yeah, the organization definitely gets a little bit better, but it's kind of sheared, and there's a little bit of dry air to the southern part of it right here that we'll show in just a second that we'll have to pay attention to. But regardless of that, it still remains pretty tropical from what I have seen, and it is expected to move out into the Atlantic, potentially re-strengthening as it hugs the Gulf Stream before moving out to sea. So that's what we're paying attention to in terms of our shear. Let's take a quick gander at our dry air aspect of this as well. Looking at the dry air, yeah, there's going to be some dry air that might entrain in it a little bit. That's that dry air I was mentioning earlier. Now, if this stays out of the core, the system organizes and develops its core and keeps the dry air out, it's going to have no problem organizing and developing. But if we see a mixed scenario where maybe some dry air gets in, maybe it doesn't, it's going to be a bit more of a 50-50 type scenario for you guys right here that we're going to want to pay attention to. So overall, that is the aspects we are seeing with Tropical Storm Arthur right here. It's not going to be a very heavy in terms of the intensity, but it's going to be very heavy in terms of impacts for Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Even Tennessee could see some impacts from this as well. So this is all stuff we're going to watch. We're going to be keeping an eye on it over the next few days, keeping you updated as more information comes out. And we'll monitor this system as well as other factors that we are watching across parts of the Atlantic. But before we do that, let's take a quick gander at our sea temperatures just to show you what may be happening moving forward down the line. So here are our water temperatures. This is for the tropical Atlantic. We're kind of pivoting a little bit. We're still talking about Arthur a little bit, but we are pivoting a little bit more so towards the Atlantic in general. But here's what we have. For once Arthur emerges off of the Carolina coast, it's going to be running right into the Gulf Stream and about, I think, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius water temperatures. That is 82 to 84 degrees Fahrenheit. For those of you living in the United States, don't use the metric system. and all of that jazz right there. So ultimately, you have a good shot of this potentially organizing, but by the time it moves off the Gulf Stream, it's going to be moving through significantly cooler waters, 26, 25, 24, generally below hurricane and tropical development criteria. Although I know I watched Ryan Hall's video, and he was saying that that tropical development typically likes to occur at 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That is technically true. However, I have seen scenarios where tropical cyclones and hurricanes have actually developed in cooler temperatures. An infamous example of this, I would say, I wouldn't say infamous, it didn't really impact anybody, but a good example of this is actually Hurricane Dawn back in July 2023. Hurricane Dawn organized and developed in the subtropics, became a hurricane in about 75-degree Fahrenheit water temperatures before turning into an extratropical cyclone and impacting parts of Europe. So it's definitely a scenario where it can happen. It has happened in the past. Am I saying it's going to happen here? I don't know, mainly because the Europeans being very happy, very aggressive with it. Rest of models are going, we'll wait and see a little bit. But the Europeans definitely been on one for Arthur so far, so we'll see how that continues. But shifting over to parts of the Atlantic, you're definitely seeing those water temperatures really starting to warm up across much of the main development region, across the Caribbean, and in the Gulf region as well. Things are heating up across the Atlantic as time continues to progress. Taking a quick gander at things, that 26 degrees Celsius line has moved further and further and further to the east, and it's also moved further to the north. In fact, you're only a couple hundred miles away from the Cabo Verde Islands that as well that you're going to want to pay attention to and keep a close eye on down the line. But ultimately, you have that happening. You have your ocean heat content continuing to increase as well. OHC continues to be a pretty big factor. I'm pulling it up right now. I didn't realize I had it. I didn't do it for a second, but here's what we have for our ocean heat content. OHC continues to ramp up a little bit as well. You're definitely seeing more of it happening in the Gulf. You're definitely seeing the loop current starting to pick up more as well. You're definitely seeing it happening in the main development region, slowly moving further and further and further up to the north, not just in the MDR, but also in the Atlantic Basin as well. You're going to want to watch out for this. You're going to want to pay attention to this, especially as we get towards the dog days of July and August, when that OHC really starts to ramp up across these regions, and we're going to want to start paying much closer attention to it as hurricane season ramps up. So that's what we have for our ocean heat content. Let's go ahead and move out into the North Atlantic, and I want to go ahead and do a shear check and a moisture check as well. We'll start with the shear, and then we'll go to the moisture for you guys, if that's okay. So here's what we have for our shear across parts of the Atlantic. We already talked earlier about Arthur and what that might be doing, but let's take a quick gander out in the Caribbean and in parts of the MDR. Looking at this, the European is actually forecasting a pretty significant break in the wind shear. You have a bit of a ridge really starting to ramp up, and that pulls the heaviest shear out of the main development region and into the tropical Atlantic Basin over here. That might create an opening for any tropical development to take place for a little while before it starts to come to ramp up, because we are noticing that wind shear starting to pick up parts of the eastern Atlantic as well that we're going to want to pay attention to. But look at this. We're seeing a much bigger opening now than we were seeing a few days ago. We're seeing a pretty significant opening across parts of the main development region. And if any sort of development were to take place for June in that region, from June 20th to the 27th would probably be the best time for it to do it, until the shear starts to pick up again and starts to ramp up across parts of the Atlantic, like we're seeing with the Caribbean graveyard as it starts to infiltrate parts of the MDR again on June 29th and June 30th. But as we get to July now, things start to get a bit more interesting. That shear does start to ramp up and pick up once again, but June 20th to the 27th has that window in terms of the wind shear. Let's take a quick gander at the dry air aspect of this as well before things start to before time starts to go off. Here's what we have for the dry air aspect of it moving forward. You're definitely seeing some dry air across parts of the Atlantic and across parts of the across parts of the coast, mainly due to the Sahara air layer. But it's definitely something we're paying attention to, and we'll continue to monitor it, and we'll continue to keep you updated next time here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, feel free to join the Storms Unite Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.